Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Welcome to the Dairy News and Views from the ISU Dairy Team, your trusted source for timely updates, expert insights, and practical tips for the dairy community. I'm your host, Jen Bentley, ISU Extension Dairy Field Specialist with ISU Extension and Outreach, along with our Extension veterinarian, Dr. Phil Jardin, and our Northwest Iowa Dairy Field Specialist, Fred Hall. So whether you're on the farm, in the barn, or on the road, we're glad you're tuning in today. So welcome back to the podcast, Phil and Fred.
Glad to be here.
Yes, we have some exciting things to talk about today, and joining us today are Dr. Pat Gordon from the ISU College of Vet Medicine and Dr. Brett Ramirez from the ISU Department of Ag and Biosystems Engineering. And so together today, they'll be sharing some practical insights to helping you raise healthier, more productive heifers with starting with the barn that they live in. So welcome to our podcast, Brett and Pat.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so before we dive into the discussion here, maybe you could both give us a quick overview of your work and how it connects to calf health and barn ventilation.
Okay, so I guess I can go first. Pat Gordon, I'm a veterinarian with the College of Veterinary Medicine, along with Dr. Jardin, the extension veterinarian. My role here is to teach veterinary students primarily in their final year of college and really focusing on dairy production medicine type situations. I've gotten to be familiar with this group and in particular Dr. Ramirez through working at the Iowa State Dairy, where we take our students as part of our training program.
Yeah, and Brett Ramirez, Associate Professor in Agricultural Engineering here at Iowa State. My main expertise is in livestock and poultry ventilation systems. I mainly work with pork and layers, but also, have had the opportunity to utilize my expertise for many, many different species across the country.
Thanks. And as we kind of start the conversation here, you two are both going to be part of our doubleheader industry professional development day coming up in November on campus. And part of that is talking about calf ventilation. And we're going to be doing a demonstration with inside the ISU dairy calf barn. So we wanted to give our audience a little bit of overview of maybe what we're going to cover that day, as well as just talk about some critical pieces of calf ventilation here. So as we get started, what are some common issues that you see in calf barns as you work with dairy producers across the state or throughout the Midwest? Are there things that kind of rise to the surface for you?
So, my main focus is really the health. So I'm involved in developing the programs at Iowa State. We take our students and we deliver the health actually to the animals per se as part of our training program. So, what I'm looking for is the number of animals that are being diagnosed with respiratory disease and trying to keep that as low as possible. Throughout my entire career, we've been dealing with respiratory disease and it continues to be a struggle for us. And even with some of these newer ventilation systems, really as a veterinarian, understanding how to look at them, how often we should be looking at them has really been a pretty steep learning curve, and having Dr. Ramirez involved to help in that training has been very essential for me.
Yeah. And, I'd add, kind of generally speaking, I see some of the most biggest issues across, I'd say this could go across food animal production, is having a tight barn. I know certain housing styles are easier to keep tighter than others, based on doors and any other penetration that can go through there. But really, when we're trying to move air, we have to have a really tight building envelope, because we really got to control that air when it gets into the barn. And kind of another just big one I've been seeing lately is, broken or non-functioning equipment, or equipment kind of right there on its last leg that just hasn't been serviced on time. I mean, really, to get a ventilation system to, get to that optimal point or fully take advantage of what it can do, is we have to have all the pieces of equipment working inside the barn, because when we start to lose things or we forget to maintain them, or, haven't gotten around to replacing that fan, in a timely manner, it just doesn't really set us up for good success. So just kind of doing some of the simple things can often go a long way in keeping that ventilation system working properly.
Do you find that one of the maintenance issues is sometimes just knocking the trash off those fan blades and making sure they're directed the way they're supposed to be?
Yep, dust in general creates a lot of problems, and as it starts to accumulate on fans, or if they're on shutters, or whatever kind of that fan package looks like, it can greatly reduce how much airflow goes through those fans. I think they say about 1/8 of an inch of dust on a plastic shutter can reduce performance by about 20 to 30%. So keeping stuff clean is very important to extending its life and keeping it functioning the way it was intended to.
And Brett, I would also assume, with most of our cap barn ventilation systems, we're talking about tubes in general. So fans pushing air in down through a tube.
Hmm.
And one of the things that we've recognized is the accumulation of dust, the accumulation of bird nests, all that stuff on the performance of those also.
Yep, and it's another spot that do the best job as possible to get clean. I don't think there's a really good, easy way to clean the inside of one of those tubes. But again, recognizing it is generally just the first step. There's too many barns. We all have our different areas of expertise here, and when you and I are in a barn, we're probably looking at two totally different things for obvious reasons, but be able to cross and then paying attention to the certain ones. So we just walk in a barn and look at the ventilation once in a while and keep it kind of as a reoccurring thing to do rather than set it, forget it, and come back in 20 years when I need to replace it.
Yeah, we are 100% looking at two different things when you and I are in a barn together. I remember the first time I was like, I don't know why this is working. And you're like, I don't know how they ever installed it this badly.
Yeah. That's what makes it fun.
So Pat, what things are you looking for? I would assume more in the environment, the calves' actual housing, the bedding, um, those types of things. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, everything starts from day one of calf life, right? We get good colostrum into them. We put them into a clean, dry environment. We try to keep them clean and dry and feed them as much as we possibly can, within reason to, get that calf to grow at the level that we're expecting. And even, some simple diarrhea cases, especially when we're in the cold weather, can have a massive impact on future health. And so when we start to see a lot of respiratory disease popping up between 1 and 2 and 3 months of age, I'm going back to day one. How are we doing colostrum? Did we have diarrhea that drained these calves of energy and protein that prevented their immune system from being strong enough when these respiratory insults start to happen? So it's really a system approach, which the ventilation component really falls into that. As trying to be as impactful in training our students, one of the things that we've started to incorporate in some of our advanced dairy production medicine courses is going in and trying to just visualize the ventilation in a barn. And we've started using foggers as part of that. And one of the early lessons to me was that the foggers can really show you where the system's not working well either as part of a diagnostic approach. Are there holes in the tops of the tubes? Are the tubes and lined up correctly? Is the airflow path correct in getting air to the tubes? And so it's been really useful for me as a veterinarian to understand what's wrong with them, but also to help the students see what's really supposed to happen in those tubes when they're working correctly also. And then I
Yep.
bring in the experts to fix it.
Yep, I'd say having those practical tools, like always having some smoke, whether it's a fogger or a smoke stick, something like that is just so handy to have because, until I developed the superpower of visualizing air, don't have it yet. Fog's about your next best way to do it. And then also having, I know you've got one, Pat, I've got one, is having a, portable weather meter or something that you can start to verify your air speeds and where that air is coming in at, or what's that draft look like down at the calf level. And having the practical tools because it's there's not a lot you can do without measuring, and I really emphasize you don't know much until you have that ability to measure because that's going to give you the insight you need to make improvements and drive forward.
Are there any other tools you would add to that? I'm thinking of an ammonia meter or Any other things that you think of as a good
Yep.
tool
So
for to have?
yeah, so with my portable weather meter, I'm going to have temperature, humidity, and airspeed. Then kind of depending on the challenge, I might not always grab my ammonia meter. Just kind of depends what the environment's like and if we need to measure it. Sometimes I'll have a laser tachometer to check fan RPMs, just to see if they're running at the right speeds or have started to reduce RPMs, over time with wear and tear. Infrared temperature camera, a couple $100, but it kind of gives you a kind of indication of how well are my temperatures spread throughout my room. What's kind of my flooring temperatures. Do we have some cold spots, hot spots throughout? And sometimes a tape measure, because I got to measure openings and check different dimensions. That's probably about my main ones that I like to carry with me.
So we are going to be having you two come out to the ISU Dairy Farm on Friday, November 21st. That's our professional development day for Iowa dairy consultants, producers. We started this, was it 2 years ago, Phil? We started this development day?
This is our second one.
This is the second one, yeah. So focusing on different topics, and this year we wanted to focus on calf health and respiratory. So part of the hands-on portion is having Dr. Ramirez and Dr. Gordon actually do a smoking of the calf barn out there at the ISU Dairy. So maybe give our audience a little bit about what that entails. When they get there, what are they going to see?
Well, first I'll start, Jen, with how we're going to plan the day. We're going to start in the classroom there at the dairy and spend about an hour. So Brett and Pat, and then also Allison Vanderplots is going to talk a little bit more about ultrasounding. We're going to have a kind of a sit-down didactic, kind of a lecture more in a classroom setting. And then because none of us like to sit in a classroom too long, after less than an hour, we're going to go down to the barn, and Pat and Brett are going to go show us how to smoke a barn, but then just talk about some of the general ventilation theories and what they see in that barn. And at the same time, Dr. Vanderplots will be looking at some ultrasounds, and then we're going to have flip the groups. So you're going to spend some time with the smoke in the barn, then some time with the ultrasound. And then after that, we're going to have ice cream at 4:00. So let Brett and Pat talk a little bit more about what they're planning for their lab portion there.
So I think what we're going to do, and we haven't actually sat down and talked about this, is just kind of start out on the approach I take as a veterinarian, looking at it visually, what do I see? And then we'll take a couple of just foggers that we use, you would buy at Menards or Lowe's or whatever, for fogging your yards and putting mineral oil through those, and then trying to introduce it down through the fans, the tube system that we have in the barn, and just to kind of see airflow and see how it changes as it progresses down through the tubes and whatnot, kind of as a diagnostic indicator for us to do that. And then I would assume that we'll be using the ammonometers and whatnot too, to kind of match that up to what we're seeing with the fogging, to kind of get better, more objective readings, rather than looking at how the fog flows through the barn and how it clears over time. Depending on what the weather does that day, it may actually be the fogging may be really good. If the wind's blowing pretty strong, like it tends to do in Iowa once in a while, it may be an interesting challenge. One of the things that you always need to take into account is what the weather outside the barn is doing to affect the airflow inside the barn.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we'll probably just, talk through things, best practices, some, opportunities, and kind of go from there.
That day, November 21st, will the curtains be shut on average, or is it kind of borderline season? Probably, right? It's not too cold yet, but getting cold. I know I've gone to some football games that time of year, and it can be pretty chilly.
Yeah, so with the tube ventilation, we need to realize that's our minimum ventilation system, right? So it's really designed to be functioning with the tube, with the curtains closed. So in order to do it properly, we need to close curtains. And even when we do it in the summertime, we'll quickly close the curtains, do a ventilation test or demonstration on it, and then get the curtains back open. But we will we will demonstrate winter ventilation as part of as the major part of what we're looking at.
Can we kind of switch gears and talk a little bit about what folks will see with the ultrasound part of the program?
Yeah, we can. So Jen recorded a recording last week with Allison Vanderplat, so refer them to that. But we'll have Calves various pneumonia status. We'll try to have some that are, we'll find some with pneumonia so they can compare the difference between a calf with pneumonia and one without pneumonia. And yeah, we're going to do that right next to the calf barn there in probably the maternity barn. We have to make sure we have that it's free that day, but that's where we'll do it. They're close to the, close by there. We'll pick out some calves. So Allison will go through that with Dr. Vanderplatz. We'll show, and it's the same ultrasound that the veterinarian uses if they use an ultrasound to preg check. It's the same equipment.
So that's on November 21st in Ames. And then people are more than welcome to stay for Saturday's football game. We're having an Iowa dairy industry tailgate. So it's a good way to network with our dairy colleagues, friends, Dairy Science Club alumni. I think it's just a great experience for our dairy industry in Iowa to get together and hopefully watch a winning football game too, right?
Yeah, hopefully the Cyclones start winning again.
Yeah.
That's against KU, right? That game? I think it's the last game of the year.
Yeah. And Phil, just a reminder, you do have ARPAS and CEU credits for the professional development day too, right?
That's correct. There's 3 hours of credit for both those. It's not ARPAS though. It's through the Iowa Board of Vet Med, but very similar. Practitioners in Iowa will have full credit, and most states around also accept the Iowa's credits for that.
Yeah, so we hope people, go ahead.
Veterinarians understand the distinction between ARPAS and and Iowa Board of Vet Med. It's a minor distinction. Okay. We have CE for vets and CE for ARPAS, both.
Yeah, so if people want more information, they can contact Dr. Jardin or Gail Carpenter or any one of us for registration. We do have a website published on our Extension Dairy Team website, the Iowa Dairy Industry Doubleheader. So you can go there for more details as they become available. We don't know the time of the game yet for Saturday, so that's going to be kind of TBD. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll learn more about when our tailgate will be, but we hope people can join us out there and have a good time. So anything to wrap up our podcast here with the group?
I'm looking forward to it and hopefully be informational and good overall experience.
Hope everybody can make it down to Ames for that. I would just like to emphasize being the farm's veterinarian that biosecurity will be in place. So please wear clean clothes. I assume we're providing boots for people to wear in the barns. Hopefully avian influenza will stay away from us. So just please practice good biosecurity.
Thanks for bringing that up. And when I've talked to people about this, and they ask about Brett's expertise, and he really is more on the poultry and swine side. And I think we as a dairy team can learn a lot from our colleagues in those other industries. So I'm looking forward to that.
Happy to share it.
All right, as we wrap up today's episode of Dairy News and Views from ISU, I want to thank everybody for being on here today and sharing your expertise and insights. And we look forward to that Professional Development Day coming up on Friday, November 21st. And we'll dive further into this topic around calf health. So if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to our podcast or share it with your fellow dairy producers and professionals. And as always, tune into our Extension Dairy Team website for more information. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and keep making a difference in the dairy industry. Thank you. This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/EXT.